welcome. Tonight is Monday, May 13th, 2019. This is the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in meeting, those
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
all in favor of the regular City Council meeting minutes of April 22nd, please, for approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the minutes from our April 23rd, 2019 Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 8 and 9. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes from our Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we will address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the council that, or in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we will move into the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins on detail on page 10 and concludes with the resolution on pages 32 and 33 and includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $10,000 to MP Asphalt for crack sealing for $10,500, to MTI for a 2019 Toro mower for $21,195.77, to Metering Tech Solutions for 100 water meters for $13,950. The following license applications, 3 of them are for the St. Peter Chamber for July 4th. That is a temporary on-sale liquor, a temporary soft drink, and a temporary gambling, all for Minnesota Square Park. We also have the Redmond for July 3rd and September 20th, 2019, and September 21st, 2019, for a temporary on-sale liquor and for a temporary dance license. Then we have the Redmond Club for a fireworks license for 400 Union Street for 7/4/2019, and we have 2 tree worker licenses for L&E Tree Service for May 14th, 2019 to April 30th, 2020, and for Roots and Up Tree Service for those same dates. Next, we have a following employee appointment: Tyler Galetka, for wastewater operator at $20.41 per hour. Then we have seasonal employee appointments, and I'm assuming these are all down at the pool. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. There are 31 of them for a range of wages and duties, plus the regular schedule of disbursements for April 18th, 2019 through May 8th, 2019. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Give me just a second, Mr. Mayor. I want to double check something if I can.
Sure.
The resolution should be, I just have the wrong number in the consent agenda for the mower.
Oh.
It's actually 20,195. We just have a typo there. It's 20,195.77.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, Steve?
The asphalt ceiling, and it's for $7,350 or no more than $10,500. Is that the same product that the city has used from one year to the next? And typically, does it include the installation of it and the cleaning, all of that? You know,
Yes, so it includes the routing, the placement of the material, and I don't know exactly what it is, parchment paper, toilet paper that rolls on top of those cracks.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily include the additional cleaning, so they don't come back and clean the streets. Pete's crew does that later for the material that's routed out or,
I was just surprised that the fee didn't seem that great at all for 6 miles of trail. It didn't seem that, I would think it'd be much more, but, you know.
It's really, Pete, if you want to come forward, I think it's based on the pound is typically what we've seen in the past. So it's not really correct to worry about the distance because it's the number of cracks and it's the per pound of material that gets installed.
Okay.
So your assumption's right, it is a very, very good price. As you can kind of see, it's kind of the low ball. We were a little concerned when we received that bid. And so we went out and checked references and we're happy. Other communities have used them in the past. And so they're kind of branching out and looking at different items there. As you can tell, we had budgeted about $10,500, and that's why we're asking to go up to that amount. If we see additional cracks that need to be ground and sealed, we would like that luxury to be able to do more at that price.
So did this company come out then and actually look at what you were proposing, or?
Yes.
Okay, it was, all right. Well, like I said, I was just really surprised at the price, I really was. Yeah, so, all right, well, thanks, Pete.
Anyone else? Questions? Ed?
Pete, you can probably answer this. I don't know a lot about pitching mounds, but why does it cost $1,468 for a pitching mound?
Well, you're talking which purchase item?
Page 19.
Okay. Is it for the clay bricks or for the portable? Pitching mound from Beacon Athletics, I'm not exactly sure if that's the clay material that we purchase for all of our mounds
Okay.
and our home plates.
So might be
so-
for more than one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be quite expensive if it's the clay bricks that we purchase and put in there. We also do have a couple of units that can be moved from field to field.
So let's convert what we would call softball fields into Little League baseball
Right.
fields is what happens.
I don't
the
know
portable
exactly
one.
which one this is.
We'll look it up and
Off the top,
we'll send an
but we'll
email
let you
out to everyone. Not a problem.
Okay. Anyone else? The resolution approving the consent agenda appears on pages 32 and 33 with the one change on item number 1, MTI for the Groundmaster, Toro Groundmaster mower should be $20,195.77. With that change, is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve with that change.
Second,
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Zeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
aye.
Councilmember Paris?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, which we have none, so we will go into new business. And the first thing up is the Pavilion Project bond sale. And we have the pleasure of Mr. Sweeney being here with us again tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Distributing results, which I should have done a few minutes ago.
I think I've got the right numbers up on the board here too, Shannon.
But we like to hand out this white sheet. because,
Looks good.
Yeah, yeah. I have done this every time.
Thank you.
We're smiling today, Shannon, aren't we?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. As we discussed with staff last week, bond market has been moving in the correct direction for us, which means interest rates have been trending lower. We had projected an interest rate of 3.19%, I believe, when we came before you a month ago for the proposed issue. This is issuance of $1,350,000 in general obligation tax abatement bonds to fund the Pavilion project in Minnesota Square, structured over a 20-year term. With even level payments, the result at 2.8264%, which was a bid received from Northland Securities, working in conjunction with Hometown Bank of St. Peter on that bid, submitted the low bid. We had 2 bids in total. I would say part of the reason for lower bid volume was, we're relatively small issue in the whole scheme of things, and there were about a half a dozen of similarly sized issues in Minnesota today. But in monitoring results of sales last week, this was right where I thought it would be coming into today. And so we feel it was a very good result that reflects current conditions in the marketplace. And we do recommend awarding sale to Northland Securities, working with Hometown Bank of St. Peter. More than happy to answer questions on the result. There's a draft of an award resolution. Debt service payments are about $1,000, well, a little over that, about $28,000 lower than what we had projected. And so that's about $1,000 less in levy that we'll make in the repayment of this debt over the life of it. So again, you know, timing worked in our favor in this instance with regard to when we're selling bonds, because we did see a nice dip that's happened in the last 30 to 60 days. So more than happy to answer questions on the award resolution, the bid results, et cetera. So.
Questions? Steve?
Mr. Sweeney, on page 35, the second whereas, what does it mean by the St. Peter School District has declined in writing to participate in the program as herein defined? What does that mean?
State statute, what we're using authority for the issuance of these bonds granted under Minnesota statute. It's tax abatement authority. And that authority says that the maximum duration or term on any bond issue is 15 years, or that's the maximum that you can abate, unless another unit of government in writing declines to participate in the payments on that issue. So we made a request to the school district to participate on this bond issue. They declined, which we expected, and so statute allows us to structure this over a 20-year term.
So what do you mean by they declined? What do you mean by that?
We asked them if they wanted to help us pay back this bond issue, and they said, no, thank you.
Okay, all
And
right.
it's a procedure under statute in order to stretch the term to 20 years. I know it's odd. It's not their project, it's our project. We wouldn't expect that they would participate. We wanted to structure the debt over a 20-year term, so we made the request. They were kind enough to decline in this instance, and so that allowed us to stretch the term to 20 years. So,
Does the school district have this type of authority and then come back to the city?
yes, they do. They
Okay.
don't often use it, but school districts have similar authority. Again, under tax abatement authority, each entity has a hearing and control or a decision on their share of the revenue stream that's applied to a specific project. We could have asked the county, and they could have said no. In this instance, we went to the school district to, you know, they were probably more knowledgeable of the project, you know, having more staff that live locally and understood what we were up to. And so it's a procedural issue under statute in order to have a 20-year bond issue rather than a 15-year bond issue.
Okay, all right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Good question, though.
There are no other questions. The resolution providing for the issuance and sale of $1,350,000 of general obligation tax abatement bonds and pledging that the abatements and levying tax for the security and payment thereof appears on pages 35 through 51. Is there a motion for approval?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Conley.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next up, we have a revolving loan request from the Flame Bar and the Hobdays.
Yep. Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, Michael and Kristen Hobday own the Flame Bar at 225 West Nassau Street. The operating entity is Sunday of St. Peter LLC, which is wholly controlled by Mr. and Mrs. Hobday. Right now, the Flame Bar does not have handicapped accessible restrooms. It is their intent to undertake a construction project which would provide for a single unisex bathroom, which would be handicapped accessible. And then they would intend to remodel the existing men's and women's rooms, which are too small to be successfully or realistically remodeled to provide handicapped accessibility. So once the unisex is up and operational, then they would undertake the reconstruction, if you will, of the men's and the women's bathroom. The total project is managed by Jesse Lager of Lager Construction, has been estimated to be $31,375. The Hobdays are requesting a $25,000 loan from the Central Business District Accessibility Enhancement Loan Program that you have developed. Those loans would be provided at 0% interest. In this case, given that borrowing the $25,000, it would be amortized on a 10-year. The Hobdays then have shown that they do have on deposit the balance of the project, or $6,375, to contribute to the construction. A review of the Hobdays' personal financials, as well as the operational financials of the Flame Bar, were reviewed by Corey Abels and Mike Favor of the EDA and myself. Our review suggested there were no concerns and that the loan would, the Hobdays would be determined to be creditworthy with no concerns on it being repaid successfully. The EDA has considered the matter at their last meeting, and they have recommended your approval of the loan. If approved, the loan policy would suggest the loan would be secured by a subordinated mortgage. In this instance, the Hobdays have no other encumbrances or mortgages filed against the real estate, so the city would essentially have the first position. Given that the loan would be made out to Michael and Kristen as individuals, there would be no need for a personal guarantee in this instance. If all of the repayment, and I think it's $208.33 monthly payments would be established, if all of the payments are received as due, when due, and in the amount due, when the balance of the loan is paid down to $5,000, the balance would be forgiven. Mr. Mayor, I'd answer any questions you or members of the City Council might have.
Questions? Steve?
I don't have a question, but I just want to publicly thank these people for being so forward-thinking and looking at the needs of people with mobility issues and also other people's that could utilize a bathroom like this.
Yeah, Councilman, I think when we made alterations to the loan program to provide the forgivability, I think you saw reports at your last goal session that there's been a lot more activity in that. I will say in my first 15 years on this job or so, we did 2, maybe 3, and the activity's really picked up, and the bar was truly appreciate the forgiveness of the bottom $5,000.
They don't have to come up, but is that the reason why you guys have decided now instead of previously? Is that part of the
Yeah, we kind of see what Patrick did a nice
Okay.
job.
Oh, okay, good.
Went with that project.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? If not, the resolution approving $25,000 Central Business District Accessibility Enhancement Revolving Loan to Mike and Chris Hobday to partially finance a handicap bathroom construction at the Flame Bar appears on pages 54 and 55. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Corman.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Thank you both. And you too, Russ. Next up, we have a transit drug and alcohol policy modification. Todd?
Mayor, members, this starts on page 56 within your packet. You've seen something very, very, very similar to this at a couple of previous occasions. You have a policy in place. Just to be clear, this is for transit drivers, not your public works drivers or plow drivers or your Class A drivers that drive commercial trucks. This is for transit drivers only. As you may recall, we work off a model that's provided by the Office of Transportation through DOT, and when the federal audit was done throughout the state of Minnesota, there were a number of communities that followed that same pattern and had some changes to make. After your last approval, a review was done, and there were 2 small modifications that were necessary or asked for by the feds within that. We've talked about these 2 changes at your workshop. I can go into greater detail if you'd like, but we have included the pages that are impacted. If you want a copy of the whole thing, 39 pages or so, I'm more than happy to provide that to you if you'd like, but the 2 changes are included on the 4 pages that are there. And one is a clarification, really an error that was made on my part where I didn't remove a phrase related to a not to exceed number, a greater than number. related to alcohol testing, and the other was removal of a paragraph and ensuring that it's clear to your transit drivers that it's the choice of the city to enforce the rules in a certain way rather than a federal or state regulation. The resolution is included in your packet providing for approval of this. If it's approved, of course, we make sure that all the drivers understand what the policy is, and we continue to move forward as you have done over the past number of years. The resolution's on page 61.
Questions?
We've discussed it a lot.
Yeah, we discussed it in workshop last week, I believe.
Yep, that's
Last
correct.
week. If there are no questions or comments, the resolution adopting the updated FTA, drug and alcohol testing policy for City of St. Peter transit employees, appears on page 61. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Now, any questions or comments?
Maybe I should make one last comment, Mayor and members, just to, even though it is MRVT, this is a policy that is the City of St. Peter's policy because you provide all the employees to Minnesota River Valley Transit. So that's why it's here and not at the Transit Board, because you contract to provide all the employees.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Paris,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Quaney.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, with a Fire Hall Building Committee establishment. And Todd again.
Mayor and members, on page 62, there's a memo that addresses this. You've had a couple of conversations related to this. My goal in asking you to take action on the resolution on page 64 is to establish a building committee for any potential future fire hall. This committee would have a number of jobs related to it, one of which that's sooner rather than later would be to interview and provide recommendation for construction manager for the council to hire. Of course, this is a city facility. And there are a number of other things that would happen over the course of any potential construction that this building committee would review. Think of it in a very similar way to how we established a building committee with the hospital, with River Judge Hospital, with a couple members from the hospital commission, but a couple members from the city council, because ultimately you have responsibility, you own it, and you have a fiduciary responsibility, certainly to your taxpayers, to know what's going on and understand and have some say in how that all fits together. Again, this is patterned very similarly in that fashion. The goal would be to have 5 members in total, 2 members from the fire department, which I have requested the department to provide 2 names for a future meeting to be appointed, and 2 members from your body and myself. And those would be the folks that would compromise or make up the building committee. They can't act alone, but they would be making recommendations through my office to the city council. That's our goal. I think the mission is laid out within the body of the memo, and I think within the body of the resolution as well. So, Mr. Mayor, happy to answer questions.
All right, questions? Todd said this is just for the establishment of the committee. The next go-around, we'll probably have to have some names when we establish that. If there are no questions, the resolution establishing the Fire Hall Project Building Committee appears on page 64. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Now, any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Paris,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Quaney.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a resolution calling for a closed session. And
Mayor,
I don't
mem-
know if you want to tell us a little bit more detail.
Yeah, there is a resolution, and under Minnesota statute, you're allowed to have a closed session to discuss the purchase or sale of real estate property. This is the potential purchase of real estate property. As you know, Mayor and members, you've been discussing 3 primary potential site locations for the fire hall. It's my goal to go into closed session to finalize that, to ensure that you know what your city attorney and I have done relative to the direction that you've provided us previously, and then come back into regular session to take action if the council is willing. Obviously, any action that you take has to be done in an open meeting, and so we would come back for the rest of your meeting that could include entering into agreement for a purchase of property for Fire Hall. The resolution's included in your packet on page 65.
Questions? And we will just be staying here, right?
Yeah, I don't expect this to take 10, 15 minutes at the most.
Okay. Okay, the resolution calling for a closed session for the purpose, for the sale or purchase of real estate or personal property affiliated with potential fire hall, appears on page 65. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Are there questions, or are there questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Zeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fawnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Paris?
Aye.
Resolution is approved, so we will recess into closed session. And if those that want to come back, we will contact you out in the hall, and hopefully it'll just be a few minutes. All right. We are back. We are returning from closed session for the purpose of a land purchase negotiation for a potential future fire hall. The time is 7:35 PM. And Todd, if you want to go over what we discussed.
Members, I have passed out to you and everyone who is in attendance tonight a memo from my office looking for authorization to execute a purchase agreement for land for a potential future fire hall. And this land is located at the corner of Sunrise Drive and Broadway. It's currently owned by the Leo A. Hoffman Center. You'll see included in the packet a purchase agreement that the Leo A. Hoffman Center has executed, indicating their agreement with a purchase price at $307,000. It's approximately 4.3 acres. This site has been one that you've considered and was part of within the top 5. Actually, technically, it's number 3, based on the site selection study that was done now, forgive me, about 18 months ago, maybe, give or take a little bit. So certainly in the top 5 of that selection list. The Leo Hoffman Center has been really great to work with, and right now this would be funded through general fund reserves. However, if you do move forward with the development of a fire hall, it would be something that we would propose to pay out of any debt service proceeds or other proceeds that you use for construction of the fire hall, whether it's state bonding money, if you're lucky enough to get some of that, or whatever you do, it would be wrapped into the overall project cost. Again, the resolution provides authority for the mayor and the city administrator to enter that agreement that you see included in your packet with the Leo Hoffman Center for that site listed as Lot 1, Block 1, Hilltop Edition, for the sum of $307,000. We would propose to close on or before July 1st of this year.
And for those watching, you may think the Leo Hoffman Center is out on Highway 99. There's a map there. It is on the northwest corner of the intersection of Sunrise Drive and Broadway, is where this 4.33 acres is located at. Any questions or comments before we ask for motion on the resolution? If not, the resolution authorizing the purchase of land for future fire hall appears in the handout that we received during our closed session. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fawnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Paris?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Resolution is approved. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports, and I'm first up, and I do not have a thing, Todd.
Mayor and members, then I'll try and go quickly and efficiently through the list that I have, which is on your agenda, plus one. So the first one is delinquent dog licenses. We want to mention that dog licensing is in cycle, and the cycle ended on April 30th. We have approximately 400 dogs that were licensed last time that either aren't licensed or have passed, which would be very sad. And so we really want to encourage people to come down and get their license. We do this for a number of reasons, one of which is to help ensure that the appropriate shots are in place. And what I find of value at my house, because I have some dogs, is that, if that dog gets lost in St. Peter and it has its license on it, they call you and they say, "We found your dog, and you can come get your dog." So maybe that's a little bit of insurance policy, so that's worthwhile. But we really want to encourage people to come down. The fee is a little bit higher now. It's $10 if it's been spaded or neutered, and $30 if it is what we call unaltered. It's a $5 additional charge.
You're making the assumption the dog wants to come back.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. You never know. I don't think they ask them, I guess. So anyway, for folks that are out there that still need to get that license, we're still doing it. We'd love to have you come down, and it really is for protection of your friends and neighbors, and dogs through all the best things can get away, and so we want to make sure that that takes place. I also want to mention in your packet The goal session report is there, so if anyone had any questions or comments about the goal session report, that's typically something that we provide to you, so please let me know, especially the last paragraph or two where I'm kind of recapping some of the action items, or maybe more accurately, research things or things that you want to talk about at future meetings or future goal setting sessions are listed in there. The last one I want to solicit Pete to give me a hand on. As some of you may know, we've had just a ton of construction done by a contractor for the folks that provide natural gas within our community. And so our goal here is to let people know that work is still ongoing, but if the work occurred last year in your right-of-way and you still have flags hanging around, those kind of things, and they haven't come to clean up, you're certainly welcome. We know with mowing season and the flags have little wires on them. Pete, I don't know if you can provide a little additional insight kind of in that vein?
You're right on the money there, Todd, is, where some of the projects have been completed, it's okay to remove the flags. Locates are good for roughly 2 weeks, and so a contractor has to complete that work in where the locate's been called and/or call another locate in. Sometimes utility companies will leave flags in the yard because they know the contractor may not get there. If there's another call or another request for a locate, a lot of times it saves them a lot of time and effort to come back and mark stuff. But we realize that homeowners are going to want to mow and get their yards cleaned up. Work that was done last year should have a deadline here of June 1. You see Q3, who does a lot of the maintenance for Michael's company, is starting to do sidewalk work. The normal progression here is sidewalk, and then you'll see black dirt, and then hydro seeding going in a lot of those areas.
So we know it's a big inconvenience. It really isn't us doing it, but we do make them have the appropriate insurance and bonding. And so we do follow up with them very, very closely, and it's certainly been a long project. And it's not just for fun. This is they're putting in new piping for safety, and so we want to make sure our community is safe with natural gas.
So when the locates were done last fall, there were a lot of utilities and a lot of different colored flags, and now there just seems to be one colored flag hanging around that didn't get picked up by one company. Maybe that's somebody we could chat with.
Yeah, they usually won't come back and pick up after a locate has been made.
It would be the contractor's responsibility. So in this instance, John, it would be
Right.
Q3 or Michael's to
Q3
come back
will
and do
come
that.
and do a lot of that work, yes, when they get in that area.
And so we'll have a discussion.
We'll mention it to Q3 though, John, we can do that and just ask them to help out the customer.
I see that, is it Nielsen's are also putting in sidewalk now
Yes,
too
they
on by the Vets Field and heading to the west. I
Yep.
saw those were going in.
Fifth Street and Scarrow Street.
And by Speedway.
Yeah, that
That was
looked like
Minnesota.
that was done.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Mayor members, that's all the reports that I have for you tonight.
All right. Anybody else have anything to add? Steve?
Pete, where is Michael's from?
Well, they're out of the Twin Cities somewhere, I guess, from their headquarters.
St. Cloud.
St. Cloud?
And then, are they doing the sidewalk, or they sub that out?
They sub that out. They have a contractor that follows them up and does their cleanup
Okay.
work for them.
So it's not a local contractor then?
No, it's a contractor. They're probably associated with the Michaels Corporation. Actually, CenterPoint Energy is the owner of the utility, and they sub to Michaels and Q3.
Yeah, their sidewalks that they're replacing are really good.
Okay.
Nice, I like them. And I've been really pleasantly surprised with the work and what they've been doing, how quick they do it. When the gas was shut off, they were really pleasant about coming back in, making sure it was all back on again. They've just really been, I think, been doing a great job from what I've seen in experience.
Right. Anybody have, Ed?
Two things. That straw stuff they got down, that's not the final though.
That is not the final,
Okay,
no, that's just a winter stabilizer is all that is. They'll pull that up and then they'll make sure that the trench is compacted and there's black dirt
Then
there
they
for
spread
grass.
black dirt
Yep.
and grass.
Hydro seed.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I had
Yep.
a couple of my customers ask me that.
Yep.
And then the second thing is, I don't know who was responsible for it, but the new landscaping down at the memorial in Minnesota Square, the front piece of it, they took out the tall grass stuff and put some nice bushes in there and some rocks. I don't know if anybody else has noticed it, but it really looks nice.
I think John Sprague actually did
Did John do it?
the work,
No.
I believe. Is who
Yeah,
they,
through the
that's what I
vets.
was told.
That's still being managed by the committee.
Yep. But it looks nice, whoever was responsible.
They did
Yeah,
a nice
the
job with
committee
the
took
trees
care
as well.
I believe that's who they hired. Anyone else? Questions, concerns, comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.